Hello, besties. It is me. It is Monty. I really wish that Kia would stop sending me these messages. I know the car is on. I know my car has been on for 6 minutes. It's perfectly fine. I'm in the car, bestie. Maybe if I lock the doors, it'll stop doing that. Hello. Welcome back to the start of another reading vlog. This week, I think, is going to be a little bit more structured in that I have a semblance of an idea of what I want to read. Last week, I knew that I wanted to finish. Well, really, that You Had Me Hello World was supposed to be like a one-off Sunday vlog because I had one day off where I had finished reading for the patrons and I was like, oh, I can do a 24-hour readathon situation because I think it was that Saturday I was going to be at work. So I was like, perfect, I can listen at work and then I can do something on Sunday. It'll be like a quick little turnaround. When I tell you I was like the Walking Dead last week, I was the fucking Walking Dead. Um, as much as the second job situation has made me feel a little bit less anxious about my personal finances, I was not a fan of how many days that I was there. It was brutal, brutal. I was living, and I think I said this. No, it had to be in the Patreon vlog that I said this. I was like, but even last week there was a couple days where I was like literally only alive because of Alani. It was Alani and body armor. Cause I had to be hydrated. I mean, they were on sale for like 88 cents last week, so I was like, let me just get these, um, the body armor, not the Alani. I wish Alani was on sale for 88 cents. Um, but yeah, I was totally out of it. I was out of it, and it was not a good time, besties. The fact that I was able to read as much as I did last week, read 4 books: Finley Donovan, You Had Me at Hello World, ACOTAR, and Lady Tremaine. I finished 4 novels and got 21% into a fifth. Crazy work. I haven't crunched the math, but this is shaping out to be a really good reading month. Not a personal best because there's no Michael Connelly. There were some months last year that I read like 20 some odd books. Craziness. Craziness. But this week I think is going to be okay. We are going to pad the stats a little bit because on the docket this week I have 2 novellas. Y'all know that I am a noted novella hater. That here I am because at my core I am still a completionist. And so even though me and the good Dr. Professor Ali Hazelwood have been tussling a little bit recently with these recent releases, I really thought that we had turned a corner, and I don't know what happened, but I felt like we turned a corner into Slop City. Um, yeah, I was not after Bride was such a high. Bride was so good that I was able to really overlook Not in Love. I think that book is absolute fucking garbage. And then last year the releases Deep End, which I still think should have been called Wet. I think that Wet is a better title. But in retrospect, I really appreciated Deep End in a way that I didn't really appreciate while I was reading it. I still think that was her name, Scarlet. Scarlet was a little unserious, but her love interest was fine. I liked him. But then Problematic Summer Romance again, it's connected to Not in Love, so can it be good? I don't think so, but it's just so bad. I just hate it, and not for the age gap at all, but it's just not very good. I know I read that last year for the patrons. There's documentation of me reading Problematic Summer Romance, and it's just not. It does not hit, besties. I'm sorry. We just ugh. Bleh. Anyway, but notoriously I do not like their short story thing. Ellie Hazelwood. Ellie Hazelwood at the best of times struggles with full length novels, and so the idea that she can distill anything into a short story, I think, is somebody is blowing smoke up her ass. To be honest with you, there's really no easy way to say it. A lot of the short stories that she has put out have not been very good. The entire Loathe to Love You series, the first 2 in that are just bad, and the one that's set in the Arctic is only passable. It is okay in comparison to the other 2, but even there's you kind of have to overlook a lot because it's a short story, and and it's just not what are you doing here? Was it To Complay, the Spotify situation that she put out? That was fine. I think that was probably her best outing. But I have, and then she did a Christmas one. She was in a Christmas collection, and the Christmas story I think was definitely better than some of the others in that collection. But you had stories in that collection that were so deeply unserious that it's of course it's a good book. Okay, so I have Hot for Slayer that is out. I actually purchased that. Can you imagine? I spent what was it, $4, $3, some amount of money I don't know how much it is. But I spent it. Thank you, Kia. Um, I spent my money to get this book because I knew I was gonna read it eventually. And then I know that one of my libraries, if not both of my libraries, have Bound, which I believe is their next Spotify situation. I've seen some people say that these little Spotify audiobooks are only available from Spotify, and I just need to dispel that rumor because I remember I read the first one, the little video game romance, also via Hoopla. Like, they were Spotify originals, but I don't think they were ever exclusive to Spotify because I did not listen to that one. I mean, now that one is out, it's like published. There's an ebook version of it, and there is a physical copy of it now. But even when it was just a Spotify original, I'm pretty sure I listened to that first one on Hoopla, like when it came out. And Bound has been there too. So I don't know if Bound is also a Spotify exclusive original, but I don't think that Spotify does their originals the same way that Amazon does, where the Amazon ones are only on Audible. Like, that's not what they do, at least in my experience, and at least when it comes to the Alley Hazelwood. Now, maybe there are other Spotify originals out there that you could only listen on Spotify, but at least for the good sis, Dr. Professor Alley Hazelwood, they have always been available in other places. Now, physically, obviously, I don't think that was really their intention there, but I don't know their business model. So I have those two on deck. I probably will finish. Let me do this. I feel like I can do this. I could probably finish ACOMAF at some point this week. I'm not really trying to read ACOMAF when I'm not at the grocery store. I think the ACOMAF is 100% going to be a grocery store read, and so I'm not there until Thursday. So we got to find. Is it Thursday? I think it's actually Wednesday. It's like Wednesday going into Thursday morning. Like, that's how I think that's how it is. I don't think it's Tuesday. I don't think it's Wednesday morning. I feel like that's probably the best way to think about it. I have to think about it that way, otherwise it's not gonna make sense to me. But I think originally it was on Wednesday. I think they changed the schedule, so now it's on Thursday morning. So I'll have to find things to read until Thursday, which could be difficult. But I think because I'm doing those two novellas, that should help. There are things to talk about. I will find things to talk about, and I will see you when it is time to do so. Good morning, besties. It is like 7 o'clock. I have just gotten off from the grocery store. If there is any solace to be had, it's that the second half of the month of March is not as crazy as the first couple of weeks we're at this job. Yeah. Like, I think I have one more day this week. And then I think it's like 3 days next week. Depending on how you count a Sunday. To me, Sunday is next week. But to some people it's not. And I think that Sunday is a different pay period for the grocery store. So, like, I think that's how that's working. Don't quote me. I am 81% of the way through A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm rereading them at work. I still hate Rhysand. I really hate this man so much. I think I forgot, like, how much I hated this man and how much I hated A Court of Mist and Fury. Like, I will say that it definitely, the second time reading this, it feels like a much more cohesive thought than I remember the first time around. Like, the first time around, I just hated Rhysand so much that I did not really appreciate the setup that was happening. And I think that there is some setup that occurs, and I think that it's really great. Great might be pushing it. Great is definitely pushing. It's not even a might. It's definitely pushing it. Great is pushing it, but I appreciate it in a way that I didn't before. So there's that. Other things that are happening in this, I liked Nesta's little cameo. We got to see Nesta again. Even Elaine. I will say that if there's anything that I respect more about this time around, is that it is Elaine. And the way that I told you guys that Nesta was so singular in the last book, I think that Elaine, in a lot of ways, obviously, because I know what's going to happen to her and I know her role that is going to happen in A Court of Wings and Ruin, I do actually think that it is kind of fitting, because I think that in the same way that in A Court of Thorns and Roses, Nesta, her experience was so singular in that the glamour didn't work on her. She was able to remember everything. And so she, even though she would not have, been out there in the woods, like, caring and, like, feeding everybody as the elder sister. There's something that the girlies think that, like, because Nesta was the oldest, she was supposed to go out there and, like, I don't know, learn to hunt herself. Okay, not gonna be me, but there's that, right? But there was a situation where one of her sisters was gone forever to the land beyond the wall, a land that everyone in her family, because when Feyre initially gets there, right, she thinks that Prythian is deadly to humans, that she is built for like a life of torture, and while the Archerons were definitely suffering in that little cabin in the middle of fucking nowhere, they weren't suffering in the way that they would think the being in the land of the Fae would be suffering. And so you have the situation where Nesta was believing that her sister was being tortured by these immortal creatures, and the only other people in her life that she had were Elaine and her dad, and neither one of them gave a fuck anymore because now they had money again. Nesta did not have any marriage prospects, so the one marriage prospect she had, her sister told her, that man beats, like, his dad beats his wife, so you'll probably get beat too. And Nesta very clearly is not in a position, no, but she's not looking to be beaten. That's not really her vibe. And then Elaine is able to, as we find out in Court of Mist and Fury, is able to find really a very similar situation to Nesta, a man that does not really seem well for her, but what else are they going to do? Elaine is happy, so Nesta will allow it. But going forward, we know that Elaine is also going to be stripped from that marriage prospect. It's not going to happen. She's going to be changed into a Fae against her will. And then she's going to be mated to a person that she just met and has no interest in. And is being, again, forced to live in a land that she grew up thinking was inhospitable to her. And so her being able to do what she's going to do in A Court of Wings and Ruin, and the way that she's going to exist going forward through that, she might not deal with it by becoming an alcoholic, but I think that I do think that it's kind of fitting that she gets to play the role that she gets to play in A Court of Wings and Ruin, in a way that I did not think I would have, because I know when I read it the first time I was like, okay, sure, but going into it this time I'm kind of like, you know what, I like it. I actually really like that vibe. And I like that it's not Feyre or Rhysand. The fact that Rhysand is so... I think the part of this book that I hate so much is that the narrative feels like we're bending over backwards to kind of rewrite history that we were just experiencing. Like, I just read A Court of Thorns and Roses, and so I think what is so hard to enjoy about this is that Rhysand keeps so much from Feyre in a way that it definitely does not feel like it is part of a bout. I think the sun is finally out enough for me to get rid of that. But he keeps so much from her in a way that does not necessarily feel like it is for or even in her best interest for these things to be kept from her. And because this is a reread, and this is book 2 out of 4 full-length novels that I've read from him, it's hard for me to accept the behavior when I know that after hundreds more pages, it's not going to change. Like, he keeps things from her in this idea that, like, oh, I'm protecting her. But I think that the things that he keeps from her are worse than whatever Tamlin could ever do. Like, again, she was locked, in air quotes, in that house for less than a day. But the things that Rhysand keeps from her, that he does not tell her, put her in mortal danger at every turn. And it'd be one thing if, he was keeping things from her and it was a one-time thing. But it's going to continue. It's going to continue. Like, it's just kind of like, what is there to root for here? Like, what is there to like about this man? He's not that great. He's not that interesting. He's actually the least interesting person in the entire cohort. The first time I read this book, again, I was so blinded by my disdain for that man. But it's like, Cassian is more interesting. Asriel is more interesting. Mor is more interesting. Like, everybody around him is more interesting. Everybody. And so, that's kind of where I'm at. again, like I don't think anybody is looking for Sarah J. Maas recommendations or discussions in the year of our Lord 2026. And so part of me does feel like part of me is like, one, I've already reviewed this book on my channel, so why do we need to have another discussion about it? Two, in 2026, we need to have a discussion featuring Sarah J. Maas. Probably not. But here we are, like here we are. Here I am, here you are, here we are together. um yeah, I don't know how this is gonna go. I know that I'm gonna finish this book. Probably I might bust out my physical copy today. So I'm gonna be home and just, knock it out that way. We'll see. I have also started reading Hot for Slayer, I think is a Dr. Professor Ali Hazelwood that I started while I was having lunch before I clocked in at the restaurant earlier. And I don't like this book. I mean, it's not a book, it's a novella, it's a short story. It's an Amazon original story. So I want to say it's around 100 some odd pages. So it's kind of lengthy. Like, there was some effort, some thought, some ideas present, right? And here we're following. Her name is Ethel. I was going to say Ethelrelda, but I know that that's Lady Tremaine. But it might as well. It's like there's an Ethel. We have Ethel, and she is a vampire. At one point, Miss Ethel was a nun. So I love that for Miss Ethel. She flung herself from a cliff. I think a vampire like attacked the abbey. She flung herself from a cliff, and she wound up becoming a vampire. It's a little bit more involved than that. The vampires in the story can only drink blood. They can't do any other eating or liquids. It has to be human blood, can't be animal blood. And she has been in this kind of a dance with this slayer, because I guess in this universe, vampire slayers are also immortal, which is an interesting little thing. Or I don't know if they're always immortal or sometimes immortal, but whatever the case is, her and this particular slayer have been doing this little slaying dance. He's been hunting her for centuries at this point. At the beginning of this little novella, he gets a concussion, or he loses his memory, his amnesia. It's an amnesia romance. And so one thing leads to another, and she brings him to her little apartment. And they're having a little back and forth banter. It's fine, but it's I hesitate to say that there's nothing special about it, because I don't read short paranormal romance, and I definitely am not clued into what is happening in vampire romance in particular these days. And I guess it is kind of nice that it's not all smut all the time, but I'm also how much can we really do it with a amnesia romance short story? What can we do here? I'm not really sure how far into this I am, in terms of a percentage, but I think I want to say I'm at the start of chapter 8. So there are at least 8 chapters in this little 100-page situation. It is from a singular perspective, or only from Ethel, which makes sense because the man has amnesia. So what would we really gain from being in his head? Probably nothing. So I have made progress on that front. Like I said, I don't know what my next audiobook is going to be. In full disclosure, I did have Throne of Glass on hold, so I might do a little reread of that. I don't know how far that reread is gonna go, because the Throne of Glass books are Audible originals. I want to say starting with Queen of Darkness. Is that book 4? Queen of Darkness? Queen of Shadows? I think it's Queen of Shadows, and I think I'm confusing it with Cassandra Clare's Queen of Air and Darkness, I want to say. Either way, at some point in the Throne of Glass universe, they become Audible originals, and Bestie, I'm not buying these. I'm not buying them on Audible. That will not be happening. So I don't know if I'm going to go down that road, or if I'm going to do something else. We will wait and see there. I look a mess, but I have to get a hat on for work, and so this is what we are rocking with today. This was supposed to be a very easy week for me, for Monty. And I guess technically there is still time for the easy week to materialize in that. Let me actually change the. I was feeling a little too overexposed, but now I feel like I'm filming in a cave and I'm not filming in a cave. That looks a little bit better. Maybe I look a little jaundiced. I don't ask me, besties. That's what I get for trying to fix the settings. Although to be honest with you, I'm not doing any color grading in post production, so this was gonna have to be it. Two things. I have not read any more of that little hot first layer. I think I read a little bit. We talked about it in that I told you guys she had amnesia and they were bunking together. That was the last I read of that book. I'm not super in love with it. I was also supposed to read Bound by Miss Allie Hazelwood. My bad, Dr. Professor Allie Hazelwood this week, and I have yet to get around to that. The only saving grace that I'm telling myself is I have to work at the grocery store on tomorrow, Saturday, and I think I'm gonna finish Throne of Glass today because I don't know if I told you guys this yet, but I have started a Throne of Glass reread and I'm 60% into that. The only thing I have to say about that, I guess I didn't really do a Throne of Glass reading vlog the last time I read it. I know I did like a series overview situation. I didn't talk about this with you guys, but last year I like marathoned through the Victoria Aveyard Red Queen series because TikTok wouldn't shut up about it. And so I was like, you know what, let me go read Red Queen. And I had a really fun time with that entire series. The only one I did not read was Broken Throne, like the little fourth. Is it book 4? It's not book 4. It's like a 4.5 where it's like some future stuff, some past stuff. But I read everything else. I read the other little short story in between the books like 2 and 3 or something. And it was a really good time. And so the biggest thing that I can compare reading Throne of Glass to is kind of like reading the Red Queen series, in that I'm sure that both of these have their issues. Uh, Maybe my issues with the Red Queen are a little bit more documented because I did actually vlog that whole experience. But they might both have their issues. But at the end of the day, I'm getting I'm getting a really solid story. I mean, a solid story with characters that I really enjoy. And I enjoyed the reread of Throne of Glass even more than I did the first time I read the book. The first time I read the book, I had a really fun time. But the second time, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, like this is a vibe. Like I'm really happy to be back in this little raggedy ass kingdom, following some of these little raggedy characters and seeing some of the characters that I know I'm not gonna see again. But yeah, I love it. Now the only thing you're not gonna get me to do is I'm never gonna call Kale Kale because I think that's ugly. But Mr. Kale, I like him. Dorian, he's whatever. My girl Aelin, Miss Selena Sardathian herself, I love that for her. Yeah, I've been having a really fun time. I did not, when books 6 and 7 were announced, I wasn't one of those people that was like, oh yeah, I'm doing a Sarah J. Maas reread. But I do have a Michael Connelly sized hole in my reading year this year because he made up 80% of my reading last year. I wound up reading a little over 100 books, and that man had 40. So it was like literally, so I guess it's not like an 80%. It was like literally a 40-60 split with the stuff that I read that was not Michael Connelly and the stuff that was Michael Connelly. And so when I think about it in the sense of like Sarah only got what, like 18 books, if not even 18, like she's like a fraction of what Michael Connelly has. And I was able to get through I mean, it was what, from August to December. From August to December, it was the Michael Connelly show. I can 100% get through this. I'm having a fun time. Now, I don't plan on continuing on immediately in Throne of Glass. And when I say that, I don't plan on picking up Crown of Midnight. Again, just because I'm still not doing a lot of physical reading. I'm not even doing a lot of e-reading, which is why I think it's taking me so long to get through Hot First Layer, even though it is a short story. I have hope for Bound because I do plan on listening to the rest of Throne of Glass at some point today. And then when I show up at the grocery store tonight, going into tomorrow morning, Bound is only a 4-hour audiobook, so I could either listen to it before I go on my lunch break or after my lunch break, but either way that book would get finished. And so there is still hope for me to complete the project that I set out for myself. And then that's just how we're gonna do it. What I'm gonna read to end out the month, I don't know. Just because I don't want to bring anything into April, because April is another month, a daily vlogging. So if you have enjoyed these little weekly experiences, I don't know how much I can continue on into April, just because between work and the daily check-ins and just, and I also plan on doing a little 75 music again and like really sticking to it. Between all of that little updates happening over there on the Patreon behind the paywall, I don't know if there's gonna be public facing content. So I'm enjoying my little Sarah J Maas rereading. Yeah, I don't know. I am biased though. Like, I do think that Throne of Glass is her best work. Like, not the book necessarily, but the series overall. I think it's like her strongest little series. I think that it's just like a, yeah, I just do. I'm sorry. Like, I know that some people, and like, I want to be one of the people who's like, oh, I really appreciate it when people, can critique my faves. And I don't know if I would say that Throne of Glass is like a favorite the way that like a Greenbone saga is my favorite. Like, I don't think, I think I would never put, Fonda Lee and Sarah J Maas anywhere near one another, because I don't necessarily have the same, I enjoy both of the series, but I don't enjoy them in the same way. I think that sometimes when you hear about Selena talking about the things that she's been through, it's like, but girl, you are 18. Like, it is kind of inconceivable that so many things and so much training and, all of these things could have happened to somebody before we ever meet her on the page. But I, I don't know, like, now, and even the first time I read this book, I was not necessarily holding that against the narrative. Like, I was not holding it against the narrative that she had this full life that we keep hearing about before, because even in the present, she is still displaying the fruits of all that training. It's not like, oh, we're hearing of her being a deadly assassin. Like, the critique that we hear about her being a deadly assassin, we don't actually see her doing any assassinating. Like, who would she be assassinating right now? Like, I do fear that, like, her just like assassinating people for the sake of assassinating people, and there really is no gain to her, is a little silly. Like, she is clothed, she is fed, she has hot running water. Like, why would she give any of that up to go and have access to none of that and just like live in the trees in the woods? Like, I'm sorry. I'm never gonna hate somebody for being in a position to bathe themselves. Not Monty. Not when the hygiene habits in these white characters are already questionable as fuck. So I'm okay with it. I like the little competition aspect, because, every book and their mother has to have a competition aspect, both then and now. Like, the competition aspect for children is something that I think is here to stay. Maybe if this book had been able to be published for adults, we wouldn't necessarily be in a King's Champion like contest situation, but I'm okay with it for what it is. Um, I like I said, I like the characters, like the different perspectives we get. The minor court politicking is the most interesting that it's ever going to be, because we've seen the future, we've read ACOTAR, we've seen Crescent City. It's not like there's actual Crescent City. There gets to be a little bit more of the sort of politicking dynamics at play, just because it's another one where it's multi perspective, and so we're seeing the different factions of the city and how they all play into the larger plot. And I think that that's probably, again, the most interesting aspect of everything, because even in my rereads of Court of Thorns and Roses and Mist and Fury, there is potential for there to be court politicking and for that to be a significant portion of the story, but I don't really think that it ever really meets its full potential, because the characters there are just not necessarily interesting enough. And I think that so much of the actual politicking is really just presented as part of the course correction and getting the reader to be aligned with the current love interest. Like, we get the moments of how both of these men act and to the people that they rule over in their various little courts, only to then be like, oh, well, how could I ever love that man, because he is so horrible to his people, and this man is so good to his people, even though there is like a whole subsect of this man's court where debauchery happens and horrible things happen to people. I guess there's technically two sections of the Night Court. Like, there's Valaris, which operates as like a normal fucking city, and then you have the Court of Nightmares, where bullshit just happens, and Reese is like, that's where the bullshit happens. And I guess I have to let the bullshit happen over here. And he has the fucking Illyrians up in the mountains, where he's like technically the king over there, but like there's again all of this mumblings, building an Aqua War that just get completely thrown out the window in Frost and Starlight. Or I guess there's still even a little bit of a mounting tension in Frost and Starlight, but not necessarily all that much. And by the time we get to Silver Flames, it's like, yeah, those Illyrians are not really rebelling. But that would probably be the most interesting, because again, like, the Illyrians want nothing to do with Rhysand or the rest of the Night Court. They have their own traditions and customs in a way that I guess I can't necessarily say are out of sync with the rest of the courts, but the rest of the courts don't necessarily seem to operate in the same sort of, and it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What does matter is there is the possibility for all of that to happen over there. And I understand that you're also saying, but Monty, there's also this big war in those books. Those are not politicking. And like there is, and the Human Queens attempt to do it. Like, they're maybe the most interesting parts of Mist and Fury are the scenes at the Manor House, the Archeron Manor House, with the High Queens. Because not only do we get to see the Archeron sisters, we get to see the queens there, we get to see the Fae interacting with human characters, and the human characters wanting nothing to do with them. And I think that those probably are the most interesting scenes. Or the most, it's definitely where Elaine is at her most interesting, because she actually gets something to do in those scenes. We get to understand her psyche, where she's coming from. And makes me appreciate her in a way that I definitely did not appreciate her the first time I read these books. Do I necessarily clamor for a book in Elaine's point of view? No. Do I think we're going to get one? Probably. But yeah, like, I think that she's definitely more interesting than I would have ever given her credit for. And it is because of those scenes, and she's probably one of the more interesting characters in those scenes. And some of that is just her circumstance and the position in the narrative that she finds herself in, but still. She, I don't want to say she does the politicking, but she kind of does. She does some politicking there, and so that's interesting in its own right. And then, like I said, Throne of Glass, I think, it's also not necessarily even the most politicking throughout the series, but in this first book, it's interesting enough when we get to see the little dynamics that are at play and where these characters are finding themselves and how they're interacting with one another in a way that we don't necessarily get again until Crescent City, because again, like I said, of all the factions. So my year of mass is a success so far. I'm enjoying myself. It is me and the harsh light of the morning. I have my work apron blocking out my passenger window. I think maybe I can adjust this a little bit so I'm not quite so aggressively orange, but how are we doing? How are we? I surprisingly don't feel that bad. Last night I bought some energy drinks because that's what I do to get through my little work, and then I left my cup in the car that had the energy drink. So for not having my energy drink, I feel pretty good. Last night was not too bad. I mean, to be fair, to be very honest with you, the only really bad night was the first night. After that, it hasn't been bad, is not a word that I would use. So it's just tedious, repetitive maybe, but of all the jobs in the world, it's not the worst thing that I've ever done. So last night I was able to finish Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, and I don't love the ending of the book. I don't want to say that things are convenient, but it's like it isn't necessarily the world's most explosive ending, but you know what? This is the first part of a 7-book series that I think has like 2 very distinct arcs. We have books 1 through 4, and then we have books 5 through 7. And I say 1 through 4. We also have the Assassin's Blade in the mix. I have the publicly available audiobooks on hold. Those are probably going to come in next month. I don't see them coming in before April is over. And if they did come in before April is over, they're probably going to... There's really not much to say, I don't think. Maybe I'll be wrong. But I did enjoy my time. I probably wouldn't change my rating of whatever I gave it on Goodreads the first time. I'm just not that invested. But like I said, I had a good time. I enjoyed myself. That was that. Then I listened to the entirety of Bound by the good Dr. Professor Ali Hazelwood. Here is where I would say that me and Ali Hazelwood, we have a love-hate relationship, and I definitely enjoyed this more. When I thought this book was 4 hours, I probably would rate it higher, and to be fair, I did listen at 2 0.65 speed because it was on Hoopla, so you can do a little bit weirdness. And I think that's what I had it set when I was listening to the ACOTAR books, and so I didn't really adjust it too much for this. And I probably could have, because it was, I won't say it was slow, but it wasn't the world's fastest audiobook. But 7 hours at 2.6 times speed or whatever is essentially like 3.5, like 2.5, 3 hours, somewhere in that range. And 7 hours, unsped up is, I don't want to call it a novella, because I definitely have read thrillers or mystery books that are, sitting, maybe even a couple romances that are sitting around the 8 hour mark. So, and those are billed to you as like regular novels. Now, I don't think that this was written as a full length novel. But it doesn't really read. It doesn't read like a novel. It doesn't read like a novella. In some ways, because it was an audio first, it does remind me of when I was a child. I had like this one CD, which makes me feel so old. But I had this one CD, and it was like it was sort of like an audiobook, but it had like sound effects and things. And it was about these little twizzards, these like twin wizards. And so it was part story. It was like an audio drama, like a radio drama, I guess. But there were some songs on it as well. Like, it was weird. And this is what Bound reminds me of more. It reads more to me akin to something like a radio play than a novel. And so it does have a beginning, a middle, and end. There is a sort of paranormal bent to it, and it is one of her stronger works, I think, despite the fact that we don't really have a whole lot of time. And so, to me personally, I do think that the chemistry is there, but the beats are a bit rushed. But can you be rushed when the whole book is 7 hours and 7 minutes? I think that's what it was. Maybe. I don't know. Like, it's told in this interesting fashion where our main character, whose name has escaped me, I think it was something old-fashioned-y, but maybe I'm wrong there. She is like this, her parents are con artists, and she wants to be a fine, upstanding citizen. But when she's working at this antiquities dealer, at first she's like, yeah, ma'am, this is a forgery. And then she falls into like a life of crime where she is using her art restoration skills to help this man make better forgeries and save his family's business, only to one day get kidnapped and sort of lured into an even bigger life of crime with this master forger man who isn't necessarily, I say master forger man, but he's really not a master forger, but he needs her skills. And so now she and this man are working together, and over the course of their working relationship, she uncovers the paranormal, and there's like this sort of big conspiracy that she is trying to help stop. It is a little bit, I don't say convoluted, because it really, the novel doesn't care about it enough for it to get to a stage where it could be convoluted, which is kind of for the better, to be honest with you, because I think that if this were a full-length novel and this were like 10 hours instead of 7, maybe we would get a little bit too tangled up there. But overall, I think that it was fine. Like, it's definitely, like I said, it is one of the stronger books. It almost made me feel like when I was reading Bride, is that the last time I had a really good time with the Allie Hazelwood? Maybe. This vampire story is definitely on par with Bride, and it's better than Hot for Slayer, because I don't care about Hot for Slayer at all. So of the paranormal, if I was ranking just the paranormal Allie Hazelwood, you have Bride, you have Mate, you have Bound, and Hot for Slayer. To me, Hot for Slayer is at the bottom, then it'd be Mate, then Bound, and then Bride. Like, Bride is still top tier because it is a full length. Like, it's full length. Like, we can't beat full length. And I did not care for Mate at all. Hated Mate. But Bride is top tier. Bound is right underneath it. Yeah, then Mate, then Hot for Slayer. Maybe by the time I finish Hot for Slayer, it'll move up. But I don't know. At least I could finish Mate. Like, I wasn't dragging my feet with that one. So Bound, like I said, is this antiquities dealer. She works with this man. She gets, several lives of crime. she winds up, we know that she dies at the beginning of the book. We know that she's dead. She's relaying her life story to us. And I think that sort of narrative structure is different enough for Allie Hazelwood, and I think that it adds a little bit something, a little razzle dazzle to the way that she is out here relaying the story, and I think that it works really well. And then she eventually joins the paranormal. It almost, I won't say is giving Twilight, because it's not giving Twilight at all, but I think that maybe, no, not, I guess kind of, if you want to squint, if you want to squint and get Twilight vibes, this is probably the Allie Hazelwood for you. If you've never read an Allie Hazelwood, I think that this is definitely one of the more successful short works, because at the beginning of this vlog I was telling you that I think that her short stories are often bad. But I guess both of the Spotify stories have worked for me, because I liked Two Can Play. I think that was the name of the first Spotify original that she did, and then this one. And as I was telling you, you don't have to have a Spotify premium membership to listen to these. I listened to both of these on Hoopla. So I mean, I guess I can't promise that your library will have the same Hoopla package that my library has. I can't promise that, but it could be on there for you. What is up, you guys? It's like the middle of the night. I'm just getting home from having a drink, and I was like, you know what? Let me sit in my car and talk to you, because I started listening to A Quarter Wings in Ruin again on my way home, but I do need to go to sleep. But because I was talking to myself through some of these things, I figured, why not get some of this on camera? Why not? I'm not going to get everything on camera, because I was talking through this like whole thing where it's like, do I need to really be platforming Sarah J. Maas in 2026? And I came to the conclusion that I'm already doing it. Like, we're here, so it's what's happening. So like, I'm not, I do think that they're probably, I guess I will get, I'm not going to. Like, Sarah J. Maas, I understand if people don't like her, you don't have to fuck with her. She does move through the world a little bit weirdly, in my opinion, but not in ways that I think are, not in a way where it's like, I don't need to talk about her on my YouTube channel. I guess that's ultimately what it boils down to. Now, if you don't fuck with Miss Sarah, that's great. You don't have to. I'm not here to convince you, but the rest of this video, and I guess this entire video has really been about Sarah. Ooh, I also have to finish Hot for Slayer. Am I gonna finish Hot for Slayer and Sheer? That might be a hard sell. Hot for Slayer I might be able to do before I go into work. We'll see. But I've been listening to Wings and Ruin. It continues to be just a really good book. But as I listen to this book, also Nesta has always been that girl to me. She's always been that bitch. I've always loved Nesta. There's never been a day on this planet where I was like, I hate this woman. I simply don't understand the hate Nesta gets. Like, she is just, she's such a fucking great character. I'm sorry. Like, she is so good. And I understand that some of the fandom, and even like Sarah herself a little bit, had to go on this little arc of like coming to terms with like her and appreciating her for what she adds to the story. But, and I see all these people who are like, oh, you know, just because Sarah was going through some dark time. I didn't watch that Call Her Daddy podcast because I hate fucking Miss Call Her Daddy. I think that she is the human personification of slop, like just laziness. Hate it. So like, I personally have not sat down and watched any of that little interview. But the girlies were like, just because Sarah got in the interview and said that, you know, she was going through a really hard time in her life and wrote that book, you don't have to like Silver Flames. And that's true. If you want to hate A Court of Silver Flames, you can hate A Court of Silver Flames. In the moment, a lot of people hate Silver Flames. I think there are a little bit more support for Silver Flames now. But if you only support Silver Flames because the author was having a hard time when they were writing the book, like, you might as well go back to hating it. Like, just go back. Just go back there. Like, I understand you might have a renewed appreciation for the text, given the surrounding that the art was produced in, but just go back to hating the book, besties. But I was sitting here and I was listening to this book, and I was thinking about this TikTok that I saw the other day about how Miss Danica, it always goes back to Miss Danica in Crescent City, is like always talking about, you know, through love all is possible, light it up, this, that, and the third. And when I think about the context of through love all is possible, and I think about Feyre and how she relates to Rhysand, it really is, she only forgives this raggedy male because she loves him. And it really is giving that best friend that is constantly telling you everything that is wrong with her man, and it's like, but don't you ever remember it, and don't you ever try to remind me. And it's like, well, bestie, don't tell me that he ran up your credit card bill and stole your car and he went out and had a baby with somebody else, if you don't remember, you don't want me to remember those things. Like, why would you tell me all of the horrible things that this no good man ever did to you and how he has used and abused you if you don't want to remember him just because you love him? And that's how it feels when I read Rhysand and Feyre, because there are so many situations where it's like Rhysand and Feyre, like just right now, they had a conversation because Feyre and Rhys have been reunited after she spent like 2 months back with Tamlin between A Court of Mist and Fury in the beginning of this book, right? Like, the very end of that, her sisters get thrown in the cauldron. Feyre is like, oh my goodness, Tamlin, how could you? She pretends that Rhysand had been mind controlling her. She goes back to the Spring Court. She's in the Spring Court trying to play Miss Spy. She's a horrible spy, so she can't be there very long. She's able to get Ianthe to maim herself, and she undercovers that the Spring Court is still aligned with Hybern, but she doesn't really have any kind of inside information. Like, she is the world's most useless spy. She gets nothing out of being there, but she does kind of raise morale for the common folk, which is a little bit crazy because the common folk really should not be on her side whatsoever. Anyway, so she's there, she does all that, she runs away, she goes back to Rhys. Rhys and her have like a small disagreement, and now they're having a conversation about how I understand, like, right now our union is a little bit shaky, so we should present as a united front. And he's like, yes, I 100% believe you. And also, this is a situation that between, even in Mist and Fury and in this book, there's this constant situation of like, oh, Rhys always has my back, he always supports me, he has always allowed me to do things that Tamlin would never do. But when you actually look at the story and you actually see things, it's like Rhys gives her information that he thinks she can have, if and only if it is going to be good for his plan. Like, he's never like, here's the whole board, and allows Feyre to make decisions based on the board. He's like, this is the information that you need to have because you're not going to fuck up the strategies that I'm doing. Like, he is willing to play pretend a little bit and do these things. And Feyre's like always running along behind him, and sometimes she has her own little strategy, but she doesn't keep things from him the way that he keeps things from her. And that's only going to continue to build and build and build until we get to Silver Flames. Hate that. But again, because through love all is possible, she allows him to do these things, and they have a conversation, and we can play pretend that they're actively communicating. Whereas when you contrast that with Tamlin and her just never talked, so their relationship is never going to work out because they were not communicating. But it's not as though her and Rhys are really communicating in any kind of way that is actually going to wind up with them in a beneficial, healthy relationship. So when Tamlin and her aren't talking, like there's this whole mounting pressure after they escape under the mountain. They're like, yeah, we're not going to talk about that. Like, we're just going to move forward. And it culminates in this situation where she's still getting dicked down out in the field, but because he's not allowing her to go off and do things, I say not allowing her to go off and do things, one day, and I say that, like, if your boyfriend locked you in the house one time, you should 100% leave. But it's like, on the day that you get locked in the house, you escape, and you have built it into this big thing where you were just horribly used because your boyfriend would not let you go to the front lines after you just narrowly escaped death at the hands of this lady under the mountain. Again, it's a hard sell for me. It's a hard sell for me personally. Just me personally. If it's an easy sell for you, I love that. But because, again, she's not love Tamlin anymore. We're not through love all is possible anymore. We are now like, oh yeah, see, this is a horrible person. But Rhysand would 100% do, like, the things that Rhys does is, again, through love all is possible. He continues to scapegoat the Court of Nightmares and the Illyrians, both of which are painted as like actual horrible people that are what the rest of the Fey realm think of as the Night Court, just in general. We also know that the city of Valaris wasn't really attacked until Tamlin and Hybern teamed up and were like, yo, we all know about fucking Valaris now, so that's where you should really be attacking. But literally all the other courts were decimated. When we see some of that in the Court of Wings and Ruin, when Homegirl is out here running away, then a little bit in Akamath where they're running away as well. But our Amarantha spent half a century terrorizing so many of the people. Like, Tamlin lost so many of his closest friends and families because they were being not only attacked by Amarantha and corralled into underground pens where they were not being fed, but she had actively destroyed all their villages. Like, it's so crazy. And then Rhys is like, oh yeah, I'm a good guy because I don't tax my peasantry But when the peasants don't have any money, Tamlin is like, look, bestie, you don't got it this month, but next month when the time comes, you have to pay double. Like, it's it's not that I think that Tamlin is a good person. I just think that he is equally as bad a person as Rhysand, and only one of them is getting any whacking. And in a perfect and just world, both of these men were getting whacked, and we would have these nuanced conversations around how both of them are not necessarily good people, and that's fine. That's great. But the conversation always becomes it delves into one, Tamlin is an abuser. We can't have any kind of nuance around him. And two, well, Rhysand is just like, oh, he's a morally gray person. He's a morally gray person, and we did something morally gray. Like, why can't you just accept the fact that he's morally gray? And I think that terms like morally gray have brain rotted you people. Like, just because you're a morally gray person doesn't mean that we are going to bypass the fact that you're doing horrible things. We can still discuss them. We can discuss the bad things that you do. Anyway, so that was the one thing that I was thinking about. Like, oh yeah, Nesta's that girl, and Rhysand is really just a bad person. I love besties. So for once, I'm not coming to you for. Let me stop covering my face. I'm not coming to you fresh off of an overnight stint at the grocery store. I'm coming to you freshly laundered. I'm about to run to Dunkin' because they're running a little promotion today, which is why these days the only time I go to Dunkin' is when they're running like get yourself a little free coffee, because the coffee is just too inconsistent for it to be. It is cheap. I will say that Dunkin', they are the coffee of the people. Like, I can really get behind a large $5 iced coffee. I mean, I could just go to the gas station and spend like $1 and some change at the gas station. I really could even save even more money and use my little cold brew pot that I got upstairs and just buy my bagged coffee. But I just can't. I cannot be bothered for whatever reason. And so if life is made of moments, even now and then a bad one, then let's go to Dunkin' Donuts. Anyway, so I'm about to go do that, but it just occurred to me that I still have not wrapped this up. I gave myself some grace, and I think on Sunday night I allowed myself to finish Hot First Layer. I nabbed the audio from Audible. I actually grabbed the whole little Scared Sexy. Is that the name of the collection? I don't know. But luckily for me, Hot First Layer is the first thing on that little selection. So it is what it is. And I listened to the last half. I read the first half, obviously. And it's definitely not her worst short story. But every time I say that, but it's definitely not as good as the little Christmassy one that I read the year prior. Even though the one I read, the Christmassy one, I had to like see the cover and like jog my memory a little bit to understand like why, like what was even happening in that one. All this is to say that Hot First Layer is not great. It's not great at all. It does really remind me more of the Loathe to Love You novellas, and those were not good novellas, besties. Like, that was shit from a butt. Like, there was nothing good in there. One of them was giving white supremacy. I don't think that was the intent. I don't think that was what she was going for, but it was giving white supremacy. The one where they're stuck with you in the elevator, that was that. Under One Roof was just so silly to me. I think that was probably my personal first foray into this person's gonna leave two people a house and hope that good things come from it. And since then, I can't really say that I have revisited that trope too much. But Josh Richards last year came out with a book that was essentially, this person left two people a house. They got to, figure it out and figure out if they're going to be together. And that Josh Richards book was really good. Josh Richards, I found out, does have another book coming out this fall, maybe. I think it's like the fall, winter. They have another book coming out, is the gist of it. And I can say that I'm excited to read it. So I will be revisiting, an author who wrote something like that. And obviously I've revisited Allie Hazelwood's whole catalog. That was what this past week was all about. But The Loathe to Love You, I think, is a very low point in that career. And so what I think I have discovered here is that, again, I don't think that short fiction is for Allie Hazelwood. Even in Bound, which is still short fiction, like, it is the same length as a regular fucking novel, in terms of the audio replay. Even the first Spotify original she came out with, when it's on the bookshelf, it looks like any other, maybe not any other, because some days these romance books are a little chunky, and I do prefer a chunky romance book to a short romance book. But still, 7 hours for Bound, and I think that Two Can Play is a very similar length. I think it's under 10. I think that maybe that's kind of the guiding light of the Spotify originals, is they want them to be it's not like a credit if you have Spotify Premium or whatever, but if you pay for the audiobooks on Spotify, they want you to be able to listen to it with your little listening hours. I think potentially, allegedly, don't hold me to that. In any event, that's what that was, and it was decent enough. Like, I have no complaints about Bound. I have not really a lot of complaints about Hot First Layer, other than, again, because it is so short, it does kind of feel as though um it feels like corners were cut. There, there's not enough time for anything. Like, the man has amnesia for half the story, and then when we discover that he doesn't, well, mostly he doesn't have amnesia, but because of his amnesia, he's able to open up to her in a way that, like, he wouldn't otherwise, and they bond over taking out, like, this rival vampire that had attacked our girl and given this man concussion or amnesia in the first place. So they're able to have, like, a little moment of levity between them and, like, communicate in a way that obviously a vampire hunter and a vampire are not normally. And it's just not very good. I will say that even, like, the central setup for this was not really the best, but although the setup for this one is very similar for the last vampire hunter romance I read, that Haley Jennings book, this Ravenous Fate. And this book wasn't any better than this Ravenous Fate, to be honest with you. Like, in some ways, it made me appreciate this Ravenous Fate, even though, again, that book had a little bit too much going on, and it is a full-length novel, so, like, you would expect there to be just more storylines going in general. But I, neither one of them were all that satisfying. So maybe that, to me, is just, like, the allure of vampire hunter is not necessarily that great. And maybe there is a world in which the Monty could like, intellectualize this, and we can have a discussion about, like, what does it mean to write a romance about something that is, like, what is forbidden romance, what is the connotations of writing a forbidden romance in this kind of a way where these people are, like, it really is life and death. And then for the stakes of the novel to have, like, not really address that at all, and for it to kind of just, like, brush under the rug and be like, okay, like what is the, like, if we're going to do this and this is going to be the trope, like, are we going to, like, meaningfully engage with this? And is this even the kind of a trope that you can meaningfully engage in a piece of short fiction? I don't think so. Like, when the chapters are 4 or 5 minutes long, like, what are we doing here? So Hot for Slayer was fine. It's not necessarily my favorite addition to the Ali Hazelwood canon of books that are out there in the universe for people to read and engage with. I definitely think that it is sort of, I don't say it's the bottom of the barrel, but it is, again, lumped in with the Loath to Love You novels, which is, those are what they are. So those are my thoughts, those are my opinions. That was me catching up on Miss Hazelwood. I did also continue my Massiverse reread, but I think I will save that for the Patreon updates in April, because I thought I was getting off that train, and the train is still barreling full steam ahead. I will say that Cassandra Clare also has another book coming out this year, and so I do think that I'm going to be seeing the girlies talking about the Cassandra Clare of it all. If you have been on this channel for any length of time, then you know that me and Miss Cassandra have a sort of fraught relationship. She is an author that I've revisited a couple of times over the course of my channel, getting caught up in her various works and the chronicles, going ups and downs in the Shadowhunter journey. To me, and maybe some of it is a little bit, has to be nostalgia bias, and some of it has to be the fact that, like, I just have, eyes to read and brains to comprehend. But the Mortal Instruments from books 1 through book 6 are definitely her strongest work. And I think that the more that she writes in the universe, the more that is solidified that they are her strongest work, because everything she adds to the universe, I think, ruins what she has already written in such a way that it is fascinating to see unfold. Like, when you read, and I think it's particularly galling when you read the series and you are engaging with the characters and the manner in which they're meant to be engaged with, and then you get to see how she handles things, and it's like, what are we doing here? Like, to me, it is still so fucking, like, the Blackthorns, to me, it will always be fuck them Blackthorns. I don't care what, but I don't care about Julian. I don't care about Drusilla. I don't care about Kate. I think we're following. I don't think is Kate a Blackthorn. Don't even ask me anymore. But it is, to me, I will stand 10 toes down on fuck every one of them Blackthorn people. Particularly in the Dark Artifices. The Dark Artifices, to me, I really don't think I can overstate how much I think those books are dog shit. Like, to me, it is one thing to enjoy the Infernal Devices. The girlies have been writing a little too hard for the Infernal Devices. I think that part of it has to be just the time period in which it's set. And I think that time period of like ye old London has a chokehold on white people that I just fully do not understand, because the events of that series, for how long those books are, it's like 2 weeks. It is a two it's like a 2 week time span. Like, I know that for sure. Clockwork Prince, the second book in that series. I forget which Clockwork it is. I want to say it's Prince, but maybe it's not Prince. But the second book in that series is legitimate a 2 week time span, because there's nothing happening. There's nothing happening there, in the emotional like sort of relationship that we find at the core of that, the love triangle, if you will, exists in such a way that the later works are just like, yeah, that didn't have to actually be an issue. And actually, if they had just like pressed the issue a little bit there, then maybe the Infernal Devices would not be, not the Infernal Devices, the Dark Artifices wouldn't be as bad as it was. Like, every time I think about the Dark Artifices, I get so fucking upset, because to me, Helen Blackthorne, to me, she is like a shining beacon on a hill of like what could have been. Like, why? Who gives a fuck about fucking Julian? We got Helen there, so we got Helen, right? And then we got her little twin brother Mark Antony, and Mark Antony and Helen are the only two Blackthorns I think deserve rights. The rest of them can go fuck off into the like. I don't even care where they go. They can all get beheaded. Even that little baby. Even little baby Blackthorn can get fucking beheaded, because who gives a fuck about him? Because the way that they treated Helen in that series, to me, is completely indefensible. And the way that the girlies will ride for Cassandra Clare and be like, oh, Cassandra Clare is so inclusive. She had one lesbian character in that entire universe, and she got sent into solitary confinement. They sent Helen Blackthorne to solitary confinement for the crime of being a lesbian woman. And she was trapped off in the middle of fuck ass nowhere just because she was a little lesbian. She couldn't do jack. It was her and fucking Alien Penhollow off in fucking practical isolation for the crimes of being lesbians. It is insane to me. Crazy work. And then when the narrative deigned to be like, okay, I guess she can come back. I guess we can allow her into this civilization. The way that her siblings treated her is crazy. They were like, you abandoned us. We did, mind you, these are the same siblings who fucked off into the King of Fairy to get back one of their little love interests, who wasn't even a good love interest, because he got somebody whipped. Like, legit, he went off and was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get you back. How dare you try to break up with me? And he gets his love interest whipped in the town square, like brutally beaten and abused. Talking about, yeah, we gotta go to Fairy to save him. No, the fuck you don't. Crazy work. So everybody was like, okay, yeah, we're gonna get your little boyfriend back. We're gonna fuck off in the Fairy. We're gonna break Clave rules. Julian is like, oh yeah, we're gonna fuck fuck the Accords, fuck the law. I'm gonna do what my dick wants to do. And then when they're like, when it comes to helping Helen, the girl who was actually sitting there, a whole child, also traumatized, she watched her twin brother get kidnapped by the Fae. Crazy work. Like, yeah, we wrote letters on your behalf. Again, the Blackthorns regularly break the law, regularly break the Accords, regularly say, fuck the Clave, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And they're like, oh yeah, our big help was we wrote some letters, Helen. So she does. We are finally getting the Wicked Powers at some point this year. So I know that the girlies are going to be rereading the Cassandra Clare, and all I can say is thoughts and prayers, besties. Will I be reading the Wicked Powers? Absolutely. Absolutely. I gotta know if those Blackthorn children meet an unhappy end, and I need to be there till the bitter end. So to me, I don't care. You can come to me with all of the cringy Clary J shenanigans. I don't care. I don't even care about the weird storyline that she gave Alec and Magnus, because it's fuck Alec and Magnus in this like new version that she writes, where like they're like this happy couple, is so crazy. When Alec spent like 2 books plotting to like rip Magnus away from magic and immortality, and just be like, yeah, I want you to die. Crazy work. So yeah, in this house, like it's cute seeing the version of them that exists in the era that we're in now. But it's like, I saw you, Alexander Lightwood. I see you. I know you. I got your number. But I've been rambling on. I will be continuing on with those long running series. It is nice to see, that the stories of my youths are still out here getting new chapters, even though those new chapters are not that great. Like I said, we will also be continuing my little massiverse updates over there in April, where we are checking in every day on the Patreon. So if you really miss me, that's where I'll be in April. I probably will not be here. There might be end of the month a wrap up where I discuss things that I got up to over there. But thanks for joining me this last week of March. I mean, technically, this is, like I said, we're in April already, but thank you for allowing me to chronicle my last week of March with you guys. If you guys have caught up on the Dr. Professor Ollie Hazelwood of it all, what did you think about Hot First Layer? What do you think about anything else that I read this month? What else did I read this week? There will not be a March wrap up just because everything else got vlogged for you guys. Like, what? I don't think I need to do that. If you want to know what I thought about something I read this month, it was in a video. You guys got to see it. So I'll see you guys when I see you. Stay safe, stay hydrated, and until next time, bye, besties.